Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. This is a place to hang out, to talk about a lot of things all at once, because life is more than just one topic. It's literally all of the topics. We're going to be talking about something that's going on in my life right now very heavily. And I don't mean to be dragging people down, but we're going to be talking about death. I know, so much fun. But we do need to talk about it, and I think oftentimes it is, especially in the internet, the online world, we talk about it in all the wrong ways. And I want to discuss that today. Also today I'm having some moringa tea. Moringa is a tropical, it is a tropical plant. It's grown and harvested in South America. It has a lot of medicinal properties, one of which is its property of lowering blood sugar, but also it has been shown to have similar properties if you're familiar with doing broccoli seeds. Or broccoli sprouts, the anti-cancer effects. So here's to you. It's kind of a nut type, it's a nutty type of a flavor. Like it almost tastes like there's some ground up nuts in the tea itself. As far as I know, that's not actually where the flavor comes from. We're gonna read a poem. I am a former English professor, so of course I am always thinking in terms of poetry. And I want to talk a little bit about this. I'm gonna show you some pictures of myself as a young person, and literally after this filming, I am going to the bedside of my Uncle Dave. My Uncle Dave, who is dying, and I will be saying my goodbyes. And this is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to do. And so often I think, whenever I was an English professor, I remember teaching, there's a lot of poems about death. There's a lot of stories that discuss death. There's a lot of stories and literature that discuss human problems. And so often when we're young, it's easy to just kind of intellectually understand, yes, my life will die. And even though we might not say this out loud, or maybe we're not necessarily speaking this in our minds, there's this little whisper that says, yeah, but it's something you don't have to worry about for a long time. So yes, you can intellectually know it. You can feel like you're extra strong by saying, I will die someday, But it's not until death becomes something that is viscerally in your face, something that is very real, that we often feel death. We often feel the effects of death. And so my Uncle Dave, he's dying. He's in the later years. I think he's around 80 years old. And he has been a part of my life since I was a little kid. Like, he took me fishing for the first time. He was always the guy with the biggest smile in the room. And we've got a lot of big smiles in the Coomer family, okay? But he was always the guy with the biggest smile, the biggest laugh. And I will miss him dearly. And I'm about to go say goodbye. And I think it's important to bring a few things up that I'm experiencing now. In the world that we live in, I think we have what we might consider to be toxic positivity. This tendency to believe that you should never mourn, that you should never suffer. And of course, you can look at suffering and you can say, well, suffering is a choice, right? So there might be bad things that happen, but we choose how we can respond to these things. But when you have an actual lived life, there's a lot of things that work out very well in theory, but when you have an actual lived life, there are times whenever suffering will find you. And I've had multiple times in my life when I've had to go through some suffering times. And I'm not saying that I'm going to suffer a lot. My Uncle Dave is suffering a lot. And so this will be a death that, as we often say, it's a relief. It's something that will bring him peace, and we are happy for that. But anytime we see someone who we're close to pass, a part of us dies as well. And so it reminds us of our own mortality. There was something that was secure, something that's always been there my entire life. It's as permanent in my life as my life has been. And now it's gone. We separate ourselves from aging, we separate ourselves from dying, we put people in nursing homes, and I'm not saying there's anything, I'm not making any moral judgments on that. I'm just saying that it's not as common for us to live in the midst of people who are dying, people who are in their later parts of life. You often will see us grouped in age groups and we don't mix. And that's how it's been for my life. And I don't know if that's a good thing. Have you lost someone you love? I still have my parents. I'm about to turn 43. So these are the years I know what's coming. You know, when you're little, you might lose a grandparent, you might lose a dog, a cat. Heaven forbid, there are many of us who've lost parents, brothers and sisters in our young age. I've been fortunate enough that my sister is still alive, my parents are still alive, but I know what's coming. I was at a funeral when I was in my early 20s. Now this is whenever the Lord of the Rings came out. Do you remember the Lord of the Rings movies? They were really good, right? I like the Lord of the Rings movies. They'd always come out near my birthday, so it was always in December. So I'm a December baby. So hey, December babies, cheers to you. But a friend of mine had to give the eulogy at his grandmother's funeral. And I attended the funeral, and I started to recognize some of what he was saying. And I kid you not, he was giving, you remember, if you've seen these movies, there's this part where, who is it? Aragorn at the end of the third movie, he's like, there will be a day when all Middle Earth is gone and the da-da-da, but that is not this day. On this day, like we fight. He did that. That was his, that was kind of like he used that as the template for his eulogy. And I'm not, as funny as it is looking back, I mean, this was like at least it was a couple decades ago now that happened. I'm not, it was as funny as it is. I mean, we're all left in this lurch. Often, suddenly, how do I face this? Because there's multiple things happening, right? One is that it reminds us of our own mortality. There's this thing that was once permanent and it's not permanent anymore. We intellectually understand death, but it's when we viscerally experience it, when it touches us, that's whenever it's totally different. It's totally different. And so, I mean, the poor guy he was just trying to handle the grief, and he was put. I always feel sorry for the people who have to do a eulogy. I hope, of course, my family is they're probably gonna have me. They'll probably have me do Uncle Dave's eulogy. I really don't want to. I am the type of guy, and to be honest, I've been breaking down crying during this process. So I've been finding all these pictures. I'm gonna show you guys these pictures. One of them, I mean, a few of them are just me when I was like a teenager. Whenever I went over to my mom and dad's house and looked for pictures, and it's just a treasure trove of, wow, we used to be so much younger, and time passes, and that which was once permanent is no longer permanent. We take for granted that we believe that life is a thing. We look at life as if it is an object. We think about, we're gonna go to Mars and search for life on Mars. Life is not an object. Life is an event. Life is an event, right? And like all events, it needs supplies, it will grow, it will shrink, and at some point that event will be over And the illusion is that it's not an event. The illusion, it's like if you went to a party and you didn't know it's a party, and you're just like, well, this is how everything is. This is permanent. But that party had a beginning, it had an end, and when that end comes, you're like, wait a minute. It's almost like a surprise. And even though I expected my entire life, you can intellectually know death is coming. It's coming for me, it's coming for my loved ones, it's coming for my dog. My dog's right over here, Bernie. Bernie's a hell of a good dog. He's 13 years old though, so I know that's coming too. Right now is a real big season of death. My uncle's dying. There are other people that are very important to me who are on the edge of dying. And so I just want to let you know, if you're going through this, if this is something you're going through, you're not alone. This is part of the human experience. It doesn't make it easy. And my advice, this is what I've been doing, and every time I go through these moments in my life where there's extreme pain, you know, the tendency is to try to smile, grin, bear it, or to try to, you know, celebrate what was. And I'm not saying these are wrong, but I also think it's important to mourn and to validate the fact I feel very sad. Sadness is not a bad thing. Sadness is something you can only really feel sad if there was something to be sad about. And that is something beautiful. I had a beautiful, wonderful relationship my entire life with my Uncle Dave. And so I went over to my parents' house last night. They flew back. They were on vacation because we were told it's time, you know. And I raided the old pictures, looking for a specific picture. There was a time when my Uncle Dave and I, we went out fishing and we didn't catch a single fish. All day long, no fish. And when we came back to the shore, we noticed that there was this bass tournament that was going on. And all these huge, giant bass, they were just throwing them out. They were just throwing away these fish, and we're like, these are enormous bass. Do you guys mind if we take some of these? And so we had these enormous bass. We went back to our family. We're like, look what we caught. I mean, we played it off. It was really cool. Eventually, Uncle Dave was like, no, we didn't actually catch these. I was like, oh, come on, Uncle Dave. Going through something as traumatic as life is something that we have to find people to hang on to and to love and to cherish all that much more. And so every moment, you know, it's easy to intellectually say every moment is a gift. But today, when you are with your family or your friends, or maybe it's just me and you here today. Maybe today it's just me and you and we're hanging out. Today, I like to look at each moment as me saying, hey, this is whenever we were here. I look at it as almost a past tense, like I'm getting to step into a memory of now. And Jesse was healthy, and my wife is still alive, and my son was still alive, and he's healthy. Who knows if that will change tomorrow? But as I live today, I like to look at it as I'm getting to live this memory now. I get to live this memory now. I'm not going to have to wait and look back at these pictures. I'm not going to take these moments for granted anymore. I'm living this memory now. And I would invite you to do the same. All right. So having said that, cheers to you. I want to end with Dylan Thomas's "Do not go gentle into that good night." And I know you've heard it before, but just let's listen to this one more time, and just try to embrace the passion for life that's in this poem. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage Rage against the dying of the night. The wise man and their end know that dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning they. Do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught the sang and sang the sun in flight and learned too late they grieved on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see the blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of light. And you, my Father, there, the sad height. Curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. My friends, remember to appreciate the fact that you get to live this memory today. Embrace it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Next time we'll talk about maybe something a little more cheery. But remember, this moment is a memory you get to live now. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much. Remember to be kind. I'll see you again.